How's everybody doing? Yeah? So I'm going to start out by just giving the single best piece of advice that I've ever gotten, and it is never wear your favorite shirt when you're taking profile pictures. Because then you're just going to, people are going to think this is the only outfit that you have. So please don't make fun of me. I didn't take my own advice, but now you know, so you won't make the same mistake. So I'm Jonathan. I am the Chief Product Officer at Appcues. For those who don't know about Appcues, we are a startup based in Boston, and we are a product-led growth platform used by over 1,000 of today's fastest-growing software companies. People use Appcues to create things like new user onboarding experiences, feature adoption, drive engagement through their product, and we're really fortunate to work with a ton of really awesome customers to help them, create really great product experiences. But today I'm not here to talk to you about Appcues. I'm here to talk to you about marrying your customer success and product teams together. Some of you I just heard laughing, and some of the other things that we've heard throughout this conference so far is that for most of us, we don't have a great relationship between the product team and the customer success teams. Probably fair to say. And no matter what your relationship currently is with your product team, I'm hoping that you can walk away today with some inspiration and some ideas of how to really create that lasting bond with your product team and engineering team. So in a way, I guess you could say I'm here to give you marriage advice. And I may not be an expert, but I do have some experience. Next month is actually my first year anniversary with my wife, Connie. Thank you. Next April will actually be 10 years that we've been together. So I know a little bit about relationships, hopefully more so about software that I can share with you as well today. Next month is also Appcues' 6th birthday. We've accomplished a lot over the years and failed a lot, made a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm here to share some of those lessons that we've learned so you can take them back with your teams and use them to your advantage. Now, before Appcues, I was a software engineer at a company in Boston called HubSpot. And before that, I was in the customer experience team at a company called Performable, which HubSpot had acquired in 2011. Performable was actually my first job out of college, and I was in customer experience, as I mentioned. At the time, it was actually a really new role, new sort of department that they had created. And I was doing a mix of things from customer support to client onboarding to some like strategic consulting as a kid out of college, which was a lot to take on, but it was really exciting. And the CEO at the time, David Cancel, this was a brand new role, and he just had this vision and belief around how important customer centricity was to that business. And though we were a small company, we had some really great and awesome clients, one of which was called Rolling Stone magazine. Performable was an analytics product, and so a value that we provided is we gave you a little snippet of code, let you embed it on your website, and that would let you track your users. Rolling Stone is one of our biggest customers, and like many of our other biggest customers, they were constantly trying to innovate and push the boundaries of what they could do with the product. They wanted to innovate and experiment on ways that they could track users and understand their behavior. Which probably, I know this is true for Appcues, our best customers are often the ones that are pushing the boundaries and can sometimes seem like the least satisfied with the product. Maybe this is true for you as well. And at the time, we really wanted to help these clients. And so what our CTO did is he gave me a little tool that let me augment the tracking code that was embedded on each customer's website so that I can make customizations on their behalf that let them achieve some of these new things that they wanted to do. And this was great for the company. It was great for the customer. Engineering got to focus on the core features and functionality that was really important and core to the business. Our customer success and customer experience team got to build out these customizations, and the customer got what they wanted as well. Right? They got to get these new iterations and new experiments running. And so everything was great, but you could probably guess where this is headed, right? It was great until one day it wasn't. And at one point, I made a mistake in the code that I had written for Rolling Stone magazine. And if you were one of the 21 million people that visit Rolling Stone on a monthly basis, this is what you would see when you logged into their website. Yeah, not great. As a 22-year-old, first job out of college, I was like, I'm going to get fired. I'm definitely going to get fired after this. Thankfully, in the startup world, there's the culture of learning and learning from your mistakes. And so instead of firing me, I learned 2 really valuable lessons that day. The first was the value of testing. Right, testing the code that you write. If your engineering teams haven't yet heard of testing, let them know. It's a really cool thing, and they should definitely do it. The second is that even when a company is super aligned around the value of customer centricity, around the value of delivering for the customer, collaborating on it in a way that is actually accretive to the customer experience is really, really hard. Right? And I would say this is even harder for customer success and product, where we are both aligned around the same outcome, but have to achieve it in different ways. It's really hard. We ran into this when I was at Performable. We ran into the same things when I was at HubSpot as well. Right? These are the same topics and conversations that we would talk about all the time. And what do we do in response to these reactions, right? When these things happen, when we deliver a poor customer experience, when we're trying our best to work together, what do? We back away, right? We stop working together. We actually try to build up walls and isolate ourselves and instead try to just avoid hurting each other or hurting the customer experience when we do that sort of collaboration. And we create barriers, right? The product team, for instance, will create barriers both physical and systematic. They'll put on their headphones, right? They'll move into a quieter space. They'll turn off the lights. And they'll create these processes that make it harder for a customer team to actually engage with them and work collaboratively with them. Our customer success teams or customer-facing teams will do a lot of the same things, right? We'll stop tying ourselves to the roadmap, right? We'll stop counting on bugs to get resolved. As Greg mentioned yesterday, there are plenty of excuses that we make, but at the same time, we also do have to protect the goals and the desired outcomes of our customers. We have to do whatever we can to get around those. And sometimes, our initial reaction to that is to actually try to hold ourselves up rather than engaging in the conflict and trying to find ways to do that. And when this goes on long enough, we start to really miss huge opportunities by not working together. Customer success team talks to customers every single day, dozens of customers in a week. And that's valuable insight that should be getting back into the product experience. Right? As John mentioned, they found ways to engage that, but many of us, I think, are probably still missing a lot of opportunities to do that. Likewise, an engineer on a team may ship an individual bug fix that may not make the press release, may not make the stage for your conference, but that solves an acute pain point for dozens and dozens of customers, and that never reaches the light of day, right? Never gets a chance to communicate to that customer, and that's a huge missed opportunity. When we go on with this behavior long enough, right? When we stop working together, when we stop collaborating long enough, we get to a really sad place where we start to feel really isolated and alone. Right? We start to ask ourselves, is that team actually talking to customers enough? Right? Do they have enough empathy for what we're trying to achieve? Right? Are we really a customer-centric company, or do we just say that we are? Again, these are the same kinds of conversations that we were having when I was at HubSpot and Performable, and maybe they're having the same things at your organizations as well. And so, that was my time at HubSpot and Performable. If we fast forward 10 years, what has changed? Right? What's changed in the world? Well, one thing that's changed is that, one thing that's the same, I would say, is that the problem of collaborating together is still really, really hard. Right? It's still really difficult. But the tools that we have to do that are getting better. Right? We have better insight, better data than we've ever had before. We've got tons of tools specialized just around the discipline of customer success. Tools like ClientSuccess. That help us achieve those outcomes better. The second thing that's changed is that companies are still customer-centric, right? We still believe in this, and I think if anything, companies nowadays are even more aligned around that mantra. But we also now have to be product-led, right? Our consumers, and even ourselves here, expect there to be an app or a website for every single thing, right? If I can't order a car or a sushi without using an app and I have to talk to somebody, my friction for that is just going to go way up, and my likelihood of doing it is going to go way down. We don't want to be cold called. We want to engage in a really different way, and that's a product-led way. Companies like Dropbox, like Slack, like Zoom are, I think, shining examples of how this trend has started manifesting and showing up in businesses that are really starting to succeed in today's world. And our jobs are going to change in response to this, right? These new tools that we have are going to enable us to do brand new things and also going to hopefully shift us away from things that are not as valuable for us to do because now they've been automated away. And now we can focus on things that are strategic or things that are bespoke for our customers, as well as the different ways that customers want to engage with us, right? If they're not going to pick up the phone as readily or they're not going to respond to our emails as readily as they used to in the past, how are we actually going to start engaging with them in a new way that's going to be accretive to their outcomes? Now, there are a lot of models out there that are written about customer success models. One of them I wanted to call out that other people online have written about is this idea of a growth CSM. And I think this really starts to touch on the changes that are happening out in the world. A growth CSM is one that is really tightly aligned to the product team. Here are some of the ways that people online describe it. And I think there's some really interesting keywords there. There are a number of CSM models that can work in a business, but what I really like about this one is that it has growth right in the title. When I see a company that has a growth-minded CSM or a growth-minded CS team, I know that they aren't setting the bar just for the minimum success that they have for their customer. Right? They're committed to maximizing the success and potential that a customer has. And so that really got me thinking about this spectrum here, right? If we're trying to take most customers from just some amount of success or no success to some success when they get onboarded, what does maximum success look like? Right? Can we actually optimize for that and commit ourselves to doing that? And I'm obviously going to argue here that the latter is much more superior than the former. And so what does minimum success look like? Minimum success is don't let the customer churn, right? It's not exactly a very inspiring goal. It's not a really lofty goal. It's the bare minimum that we have, actually not for the customer's success, but for the health of our own business. When a business optimizes for minimum success, they do things like this. Right? We tell our marketing team, hey, make it harder for users to sign up. Right? Make sure that they're giving their business email address, not their personal email address. Make it more difficult for them to come into the product. We tell our sales team, hey, don't sell to bad fit customers, right? Qualify harder, get more control over the process. We tell our product team, hey, make the product really hard to switch off of, right? Make the switching costs really high so that they're not going to leave us. We tell our CSM team, hey, put out fires, send out gift cards, right? Just try to lure the customer in ways that maybe aren't necessarily helpful for the business, but are going to get them to renew. And I'll be the first to admit that in several points within Appcues history, this was us. Right? We did these things as well. And these aren't necessarily things that are bad in and of themselves. These are actually fine for your business, but we just can't get confused. These are things that are better for the business and the health of the company. They're going to look good on a board deck, or they're going to look good on an S1 report when you file for your IPO, but they are not aligned to customer outcomes. Right? They are not going to make your customer more successful using your product. They're going to make your business healthier. Now the difference, what does it look like if we optimize for maximum success for the customer? Right? What that means is that we are committing to the customer actually growing and learning and flourishing. We are tying our success to the success that our customers get within their own businesses. And we're only going to extract value when we're creating value. So what does that look like when a company commits to doing that? We do different things, right? We tell our marketing team, hey, educate customers better before they even sign up for the product. Make sure they know exactly what they're getting into. We tell our sales team, hey, give prospects more time to try the product. Right? Get them to really understand what they're about to buy. Make sure that it's right for them. Make sure their whole team is aligned that this is what's important for them. We tell our product team, hey, don't focus on making it hard to switch off. Make it so that customers never want to switch off. Right? Make it so unique, so valuable to them that they cannot imagine themselves without your product. And we tell our CS team, hey, actually, you have agency over creating real value for the customer. Right? Creating real value for the customer is what's going to empower them to help us grow our own business, because they're going to exchange the value that they're getting with monetary value for us. And we can't get our CS teams to focus on creating real customer value until we can start thinking about optimizing for the upside of our customer rather than just the downside that we experience as churn. Now, great companies do this, right? The companies that we know, that we love, that we admire, companies like the Slacks and Dropboxes of the world, they do this, right? And one of the advantages that they have by doing this is it actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? By focusing on some of these root causes of what causes churn, rather than reacting to the symptom, we're actually helping customers succeed all along the way, right? We're focusing on really for them to be successful from day one and day two and beyond, that they'll never churn. Right? This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we become a truly customer-centric company. I'll give you an example of our own history of how this manifested itself in our trial experience. So when Appcues started out, we had, we basically were trying to focus on building the product, and so we didn't experiment a ton. We started with a 30-day free trial because that's what everybody else did in the market. 30 days, end of the 30 days, your trial expired, and we asked you to buy. And at some point, things were fine with that. At some point, we decided, hey, we need to start experimenting, because that's the other thing that people tell us we need to do. And we switched from a 30-day free trial to a 14-day free trial. And we found out that people actually were buying more, right? Some people who were in the 30-day trial, they sort of lost urgency or lost commitment along the way. And by compressing the time, we actually created a sense of urgency that drove them to make a decision faster. And we had this internal joke. It's like, wow, if we just took it down to 0 days, is everybody going to buy? Which obviously is not going to be true. And so everybody was super happy. This seemed super cool. We were riding high until we looked at this chart. Does anybody know what this is? Yeah? This is a cohort chart. And this is a cohort retention chart specifically. And you can see what happened when we started looking deeply at these metrics is that customers were buying in month 1, but by month 2 or month 3, we were seeing this dramatic drop-off in customer retention. And when we talked to customers, we were like, hey, you signed up, you were super excited, and then you churned after 2 months. Like, what's going on? What happened with the product? And they said, we actually really love the product. We think Appcues is a really great product. It's a really great idea, but we never got around to implementing it. We signed up ahead of our need, expecting ourselves to go and implement it, but we just ran out of time or something came up, and so we're going to come back, but we ended up canceling because we're just not ready for it right now. And the way that our team reacted to that, is like probably a way that may sound familiar. Right? Our sales team was like, oh man, we need to get rid of the trial. Right? We need to get more control over the experience and make sure that every customer is talking to a salesperson before they can buy. Our customer teams were saying, hey, we need to make it so that we're not on month-to-month contracts anymore. We need to get customers paying on an annual basis, and that's going to help our retention rate so that even if they're not ready to implement in month 1 or month 2, maybe by month 4 they're going to do it, or maybe they're more invested in it as a result. And there were all these conversations that we were having internally about, hey, we need to lock this experience down and make it harder for customers to leave, which just didn't really feel like the right way to do things. And so we actually took a different tact. Instead of reducing the amount of time that customer could have using the product, we actually made it infinite. So we switched from a 30-day trial to a 14-day trial to an unlimited trial. You can use the product for as long as you want. And the only point at which we expected you to buy was after you had hit a bunch of milestones, which to us said that you were ready and you understood the value of the product. For those of you who don't know Appcues or may know Appcues, the point for that was you had installed our product into your own website, you had created actual content with it, you had published that, and 100 people had actually seen the experiences that you created. And so every customer, before they had any incentive to buy, was already fully onboarded and live with the product and had seen results already, some semblance of results. And that's the point at which you had any incentive to buy. Now, when we made that change, our sales team was really nervous, right? They went from having all of this urgency to basically having 0 urgency. And when you look at our metrics from that time, you'll see that there was this huge 2-month period where nobody bought, and then thankfully all of a sudden it bounced back because it took a while for the pipeline to build back up. But as a result, every single customer who came on had much better retention rates. They were much more informed in the product, and our sales team has learned to love it. It's a way for us to really be a product-led company and really drive for success for outcomes. But we wouldn't have done that without the alignment of our customer teams, our sales teams, and our customer experience team as well. And so that's, in my mind, what starts to look like when you're optimizing for maximum success. And really at the macro level, what that looks like is partnering with your customer success teams, partnering with your product team to really build that experience and understand that product experience from the beginning, all the way from ideation and research, all the way through launch. I think it's going to be different for every single company about how you do this, how you engage in this way, and to what degree you do it. I'll share some examples of how we do it at Appcues. One of the ways that we do this is we meet to share feedback. Really similar to what John shared, we have a meeting every single month where we meet with our customer-facing teams, people from CS, people from sales, people from support. We actually engage with them and we understand what are their top priorities that they're seeing that they want us to work on. Pretty similar to what John mentioned. The other one that we've recently started doing, which I highly encourage all of you to take away, we actually empower our customer support team to prioritize a list of bugs that they think are important for us to work on. We have an entire week, every sprint, dedicated to solving those bugs. So every 6 to 8 weeks, we spend an entire week just resolving bugs. That list of bugs that we're going to work on are those that are not urgent, otherwise we would have fixed them right away, but they're kind of in that middle zone of things that I think would say usually end up on a backlog and just never actually accomplished. Instead, we've dedicated time to it, and we tell our customer support team, prioritize this list of bugs, and our engineering team is going to work down that list and get to as many as we can in a 1-week period. It really empowers them to understand the customer experience, and then it's a commitment from the product team to say we are committed to actually making time for these. I think that's often the missing piece in working together in that way. The second, which somebody else mentioned today, Carrie actually in her talk, is this process of actually engaging the customer success team in the actual features that we design and we build. You can use human-centered design processes. You can also use design sprints. This is a philosophy from a team from Google. Part of that exercise actually is called Ask the Experts. And we bring in people from customer success, and we ask them, hey, we're working on this feature that's going to improve this core workflow here. What's your thoughts on that, right? We interview them. We get to understand. It's not going to be the only point of research or the only way that we understand the problem, but it's a great first way for us to understand where we need to be digging deeper. Right? I would say if the product team is not leveraging the expertise that you and your team has, it's a huge missed opportunity because they're going to have to go out and learn that themselves, or they're going to be flying blind. And I think that's typically how most teams operate, unfortunately. So huge opportunity for them to move faster and with more confidence. The next one here, which is a little bit more aggressive, I would say, or a little bit more invested in the relationship, we actually pull our CS teams in and help them, or get them to help us launch features. So Lily here and Okello, both two people from our CS team. Jeff is a product manager. We've got this internal competition running. We've launched 2 integrations at the same time. One is a Zapier integration, and the other one is a Salesforce integration. We've created a competition internally to see how many people or who can drive the most. So Lily is driving the Salesforce integration, and Okello is driving the Zapier integration. And you can see we've got a little bit of competition here. But the CS team is actually setting their own goals and helping us. They've created type forms to help get people and customers to sign up for these betas. They're sending out emails, they're using Appcues, they're doing all of these things, and they're really invested in helping drive adoption of the product. This can go even further, right, beyond just a beta and all the way through long-term adoption. In order to do that, you could probably guess we're actually also setting goals as a company that are mutually aligned. This is really hard. I think that there can be a lot of politics involved in doing this, but we found it to be essential if we're actually going to be successful in working together. So you can see our CS team. This is our actual Q3 OKRs. So our CS team has goals around driving adoption for some of these beta features that we have coming out. Also different adoption metrics and goals around the methodology and new features that we just released over the past quarter. And these are things that they're committed to doing. And the product team, likewise, has their own goals around delivering and making sure that these features are out there so that we can drive adoption together. And it's not just I know this is kind of sounding like a one-way street, like how can CS, which is awesome and has all of this information, how can they help the product team? And I'd say that's usually my bias as well. But there are a lot of ways that your product and engineering teams can also help empower CS. One of which, really simple, right? Providing metrics and data. I think a lot of us here are often trying to operate on our best instincts and our best judgment, but there's also a ton of data out there that we can leverage. I think nowadays we have more than ever, but every single product has probably some amount of data that is specific and bespoke to your type of business, and your product and engineering teams can help surface that. The next one is activating tools. Again, we have more tools than ever nowadays. A lot of those tools take technical work or collaboration from your engineering team or product team to help you get really online. I'd say, as much as possible, engaging them at least in 1 or 2 things that are really going to help you create leverage. Product and engineering teams love finding ways to create leverage in the business and leverage in things that they do. And engaging with them and saying, hey, here's how we can create leverage as well by empowering our team to be able to scale in this way. Engineers and product people love scale. And the last one is with automation. If there are things that a customer success in our organization, for sure, if there are things that a customer success person is doing all the time that is actually really successful, we want to do that again and again and again and make it as repeatable as possible. And we want to do that in a way that doesn't require us to have to scale out and hire more and more people to do that. We want to find ways to automate that process, whether it's sending an email or creating a workflow or putting something in the product that we know is working. We're constantly looking for ways to automate. And the list of this stuff goes on and on. Right? I'm sure anyone here could probably come up with 10 great ideas that they would love for their customer success and product teams to be doing together. If you have any ideas and you want to throw them out, please come find me after this. I'm happy to chat with you about them. I think the fuel behind the fire here is that now more than ever, our teams are more aligned around the value of being customer centric and the value that customer success teams really bring to the table. And if we use that to actually start working together and drive the conversation towards shared outcomes internally that then lead for great outcomes for the customer, we have the potential to do some really amazing things for them. The cautionary tale I'll leave with is that, again, like this passion, this inspiration of wanting to go do these things is really important, but it's not enough for us to just land on the tools. Our tools alone are not going to help us create a great and amazing user experience. It really has to come from working together and that shared accountability. Right, so next time you're working and engaging with your product teams, your engineering teams, my ask is don't shy away, right? Don't shy away from the relationship, don't shy away from the conflict, and instead find a way to get married. And that's all I've got. Thank you very much. I think we've got like 2 minutes for questions if anybody has some. One in the back. Yeah, I'm actually really proud of the way that we do support at Appcues. We iterated on it a lot. From day one, we actually had every engineer, every single person in the company do support on a rotation. You'd spend an entire week doing only support. And that model has changed and scaled over time. Until recently, we had it so that one engineer from every single team would rotate on a full week. Then we switched it to, it was one engineer for the entire engineering department, then it was one engineer per team. And now we realize that there's a lot of sort of back and forth or context switching that has to happen when you're doing support. So instead, we still solve the really urgent things right away. But it's because we had gone through that pain or gone through those struggles of trying to scale a thing that we realized that, okay, urgent things we solve right away. For everything else, we want to set it aside and actually make scope time for it. And then I think that as John mentioned, our customer-facing teams end up apologizing a lot, saying, hey, we can't solve this right now, but at least they can say, but I know it will get solved this time, right? Or I know our team has dedicated time to resolve these issues. And by the way, this is our number one thing that we're going to solve, right? Because support team now feels empowered to say that. That was relatively recent. Over here.
I'm interested how you structure that monthly meeting with the customer-facing teams, seeing as often product needs or desires to take in information in a very structured way, whereas customer information tends to come in more organically. What have you found is a good way to connect that communication gap and come up with a shared approach?
Yeah, it's really hard. I would say we've tried a bunch of different models, and the one that I like most recently that we've been using more is this idea of a sage, right? So there's another company actually in Boston that shared this model with us. But the idea is that you have one person within each organization or within the CS team who is an expert in one area of the product, right? They kind of embed themselves into a specific product team. And they say, hey, I'm going to be the best at understanding our reporting, right? I'm going to be the person that gathers all the information from our customers about how our reporting functionality can get better, and I'm going to share that with the product team, and I'm also going to learn that area of the product better than anybody else. And they can bring that back to their own internal teams and share that out. But there's a voice of the customer success team embedded in that team, and they're really the ones who are pulled in when it comes to designing features, launching features, those kinds of things. If you're a smaller team or smaller organization, just having an open forum and surfacing those things, what we try to do is, we've tried a bunch of different things, but in cases like that, what we do is we just say, here are the top themes that we are working on as a product team. We want feedback on that. We don't want feedback on every single thing that a customer has asked for because we won't be able to take action on that. But here's the thing that we're really focused on right now. It's reliability or it's this new feature. And we want all the functionality and feature feedback that we can get on that. Maybe one more.
So my question's about trust between product and CS. So when it comes to reporting bugs, we noticed that there was a discrepancy between the urgency felt by the CS folks and perhaps because of communication styles between the two teams, felt like a lack of urgency on the product side. So we've been working on rebuilding trust between those two teams. So any advice around that, how to get everybody to feel like they're on the same team? Because nobody wants bugs out there, but.
Yeah, oh man, trust. I feel like there could be a whole talk just around building trust with those teams. I think that one of the things that I've constantly been surprised by is that there's this stigma where, the engineers don't care about customers, they just care about the technology. But the truth is that I would say most engineers, they actually do care about what they're building, right? They want it to be used by people, and helping them like connect what they are doing to what the value the customer gets. That's where they really start to see like why craftsmanship matters. Things that we've seen work internally or with other companies is things like what John mentioned, bringing real customers in and hearing from them. This is why this matters. And to be honest, I think that there really does need to sort of be that third party come in, because we all have our own objectives and our own motivations. CS is comped on renewal rates, right? And it's not that it's hard to trust that. It's just that engineering is measured on like the reliability of the features, how quickly they're shipping things. They're just measured on different things. And the third party objective person who comes in is the customer and says like, this is the thing that matters most to me. And I think everyone can sort of build trust along that line at least. Awesome. Well, thank you very much,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you very much.